Welcome to the Gridiron Insight. I've got a special guest today, my guy Charles Smith. Charles, how's it going, man? We appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate you inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Oh yeah, man. As we all know, man, right now we got a dilemma. A few things that's going on in the state. Mississippi College has shut down their football program, and it's kind of concerning to me because I was a part of some things they had going on this summer. They had a big mega camp going on this summer. They brought in a new head coach who come from the D1 ranks, and he changed the colors. I mean, they got new uniforms. They had a new scheme, brought in a lot of guys, and it's just kind of concerning to me, to kind of see what could have happened to change from, going to make this big jump to get a D1 guy in here. And now all of a sudden, from what I understand, some of the coaches were really on the phone with some of the recruits trying to get them to come in. And all of a sudden, you have this split. And so it's kind of concerning to me that this could happen just so abruptly. I could see if they had to say it maybe a year ago, funds are not looking right, but they got all those kids on the campus this summer so people could see their campus. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything is gone. So I know the head coach, Coach Kershaw, I know he's broken down from it because he left a position job at a D1 school to come to MC. And we know sometimes it's more than just football. You got the NIL, you got the portal, and everything was going on. But I just want to, give me your insight. What some of the things that you think, that actually led up to this.
Well, I'll say this as a student of public policy and really looking at how institutions of higher learning are working now and looking at just the dramatic changes in the whole process of college athletics and the university as a whole. What I'm beginning to notice, and this is just based on my own research and what I'm doing as a graduate student, is really looking at how universities operate and how they basically keep their institutions afloat in a
Mhm.
changing economy, in a changing world, in a changing value of how people see education and the role that it plays. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we love football and this is our thing. We love it. I love it.
Right,
We all love it.
right,
But the reality of it is that they're attached to universities, and universities have to have goals, and they have to deal with not having enough students now.
yeah.
People
So,
have not had the kids that they've had, so as a result, now you're
mhm.
dealing with a lot of competition with enrollment.
Well, do you think this is going to happen to a lot of more private schools than public?
Oh gosh, yes, most definitely. The private schools will be hit first because let's think about it for a second. A state university has resources coming in because they're state appropriated, so that means there are
Right.
certain components that will keep you going. There's a support mechanism and a financial mechanism that's there for a public institution. But now the public institutions are also under a lot of push and pull because now a lot of states don't give the same kind of money that they've done in the past. So
Correct.
an institution like Mississippi College, or formerly Mississippi, now Mississippi Christian
Christian
University, from what I
college, yeah,
understand.
Christian university,
Yeah,
correct.
Christian University. Yeah, from what I'm seeing is now they're having to deal with the reality of trying to keep that. What I read today is, they have a $2 million budget for their institution, and
Mm,
their president who's been there 7 years has pretty much so said, "Look, wait a minute, we've got a lot of other sports that we have to basically finance, and on top of that, we can take that and enhance those other sports." And he's
yes.
used other institutions as examples
Hmm.
of being able to, basically finance at basketball, women's sports, all because of the Title IX issue. You have to basically make sure that you finance sports across all genders, which is only right.
Across the
So
board, period.
exactly across the board, period. And if football is not producing the kind of revenue that you need, then you have to reevaluate it. And a lot of schools are in that predicament.
Well, I always thought, one day that Stillman would bring football back. They're a private institution. And that was way before the NILs. That's been, gosh knows, that's been what, 10 years ago, maybe even longer. But I understand what's going on, when it comes to the financial woes that a private school have, kind of like
Yes,
some of the woes that we have in HBCUs. But
yes,
when you take a Alcorn, you take a Jackson State, we do have some state funds that help us. And, you know, contrary to what people say, we have a fan base that helps us out a
yeah,
lot when it comes to that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because
So
larger schools are going to produce more graduates, and then
correct.
if the kind of majors that they have will produce graduates who create certain levels of wealth.
Right.
That's why it's important for your business school and your engineering school and all of these kinds of majors that are, I guess, you could call wealth producers in the general economy. You need those kinds of people out there. That's why so many of these large universities have been so successful because they're
Yeah.
tied in to corporate I guess you say relationships because so many of the
Relationships.
graduates are running corporations,
Yeah. And
and that's been the up and downs of HBCUs because our institutions have been geared toward education. A lot
education.
of
And I
teachers.
tell people that
You're
all the
just not going to
time.
get a lot of money from a lot of teachers,
Yeah.
but you will get them from engineers and CEOs.
I mean, that was a conversation that I had with a parent probably maybe 6 months ago, and he was talking, and they took a visit to Mississippi Valley, and he was talking about, well, Valley don't have this and Valley don't have that. Valley is pretty much, you know, their graduation. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are at Valley right now, but most of their graduates are teachers,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
business, which they don't have a business school, but it's not like the people that they're putting out is making what six figures, right out of college. So they
Right.
can't get back. Most of them have student loans, so they
Exactly.
can't. So man, they can't
Yeah.
do that. So that's something that I really want to look at, man. Just going further, this NIL situation change college football and change the landscape of just school. I mean, it's not going to just hurt football; it's going to hurt some other sports too. So
All
you're
sports.
going football is just it costs more to actually run a football program. Now, don't get me wrong, the football program can bring you more money than anybody else, but if you don't have the type of revenue coming in from football, it become a
Mhm.
detriment to your organization or to your program or to your university.
Well, I mean, there are so many moving parts associated with that whole process. One thing that I've constantly talked about is the Power Four. It used to be Power Five, now the Power Four. They have television deals. Television deals change the game for those
Mhm.
institutions because it create insane amount of wealth for them. And then on top of that, it created insane amount of budgets. Small institutions don't have those kinds of access
Correct.
to those kind of television revenues. That's one thing. Then you start throwing in this whole thing of when the NIL showed up, that was the beginning of the end. And I listened very closely to a lot of coaches who talked about it. Primarily, I love to use Nick Saban as an example. He said straight out, all you've done is made basically the richer richer.
Oh, you
And
have.
now they can support those student athletes in ways that these other smaller institutions don't even can't even think about it. Think
You,
about being you got a kid who's gonna have $100,000 deal to come and play, defensive tackle for you.
right. Right. Think
And that's
about
too much
Texas.
money going straight into his pocket. What can you do with that?
You can't do anything with that. You think about Texas right now, and
Mhm.
everybody's like, well, Texas is out recruiting everybody, but Texas is out paying everybody also. You
Yes,
understand what I'm
most
saying?
definitely.
So, I mean, Alabama is a rich school, but if you come down to finances, Alabama can't stand up to Texas.
No,
Alabama
no,
can't stand up to Texas A&M.
no, no.
So Nick Saban saw, the mojo I use to get a player,
Hmm.
that's not there. And
Well,
we look. I mean, it's slowly going away.
right, it is. It is,
You
and
know,
it is slowly going away. Basically, all like I said, all you did was spread the difference between those who have and those who have not. And
the have
you
and
look
the
at the
have-nots.
larger, you have and you have not. And you look at the general economy of how our society, how this capitalistic nation of ours operates.
Right.
It happens not just in this arena. You can apply the same ideological understanding to any arena in this capitalist society, no matter what it may be. You could be in any field, you're going to say this guy over here has more access and opportunity than this guy over here. So all of these smaller institutions, I was in a symposium about a month ago that this guy talked about. He's from up north, and he's talking about how liberal arts colleges in the Northeast are just closing in droves. And I went and did some
Yes,
research. I read
yes.
the Chronicle I and read
Hmm.
this great article that talked about that. So we're talking about a school that's comparable to a Mississippi College. I'm just going to continue to call them that until that name is completely
Right,
out there.
right. Yeah,
Comparable to
MC
those
Dubs.
institutions have long histories, and they're closing down. Doors are closing like you wouldn't believe
Yeah.
because they can't keep up with keeping the institution going, let alone the athletic program.
Well,
So
man,
this is a tough road to hoe, my friend, as my
this is
grandmother.
something that we need to keep our eye on right now because we have some institutions that I think that are D1 that need to maybe drop down because of some of the same reasons the AD at Mississippi College said that
Hmm.
they're getting rid of the football program because I think travel was one. That was
Hmm.
a big thing.
Yeah, that's a
I
problem.
think that was the major thing, to be honest with you. But you
Hmm.
you had you have schools if they did drop down to a D2, they would cut the travel out.
Hmm.
You cut your scholarships down, but that doesn't
Hmm.
mean you can't be competitive. I
Well,
mean,
you can pull together teams that you play on your level. You get in a new conference, you get in a D2 conference, and you recruit the kind of players that you want to get your hands on as best. I think how many scholarships do they give a D2 school? I know it
man,
used to be 35 or somewhere
uh,
number like that. Or it may have
I thought it
gone,
went up a little bit, but you can split those
it might have
scholarships.
gone up some over time. But
See,
yeah, you can
you can
split the
split those
scholarship.
scholarships compared to being at a P4 where you can't split them. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
So they can
right.
split those scholarships up, and that helps out a whole lot. You take a school that doesn't have a great fan base.
Mhm.
You take a school in the conference that we both love, the SWAC. You take Mississippi
Uh-huh,
Valley. If just I
uh-huh.
mean, and I'm not saying Mississippi Valley got to drop down to D2, but if you take Valley, if they did drop down to D2, they can
Hmm.
cut the travel down. They can definitely cut the travel down playing Miles and some of the other schools like that. You got Lane
Hmm.
University up there. You still can play Alcorn. You still can play Jackson State. Um,
Hmm.
man, and you won't have to put out as much scholarship money as you do, being an FBS program. So it's a lot of schools. I think pride is going to stop them from doing things, but I think if they
Right.
look at the logistics of it, and when it comes
Hmm.
down to actually saving the school money and actually
Hmm.
making your program stronger,
Hmm.
you can actually drop down, make your program stronger, and save school money at the same time. I think that's going to be a trend that we see in the next 2 or 3 years.
Oh, it's happening. It's going to happen. As the climate gets, I guess you say, more competitive, and institutions are basically fighting for literally survival of the institution, and its athletic programs, they're going to have to start making some drastic changes. I
Well,
really hate to see that for so many,
mhm.
because I mean, you think about it, Mississippi College has a lot of pride in their program. They've
Yeah,
won a
that's a lot
lot.
of pride. That and that's
They've
a
won a
lot.
lot of football games, and they've won championships.
Hmm.
So and
National championships.
yeah, national, exactly. D2 national champion. I mean, no,
Right.
yeah, D2
It was
national
D2,
champions
Fred
back in the
McAfee
'80s.
and all those guys.
Yeah,
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 sure
yeah.
was, man.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that
Now you
clearly.
got
And
another school that's right here that you're seeing the numbers fall, and they're a great football school, great D2 football school too, and that's Delta State. I mean,
yeah,
what do you
same
think
old
Delta
time.
State fall in this deal? Now they're state funded school, and that might be the difference.
Yeah,
Um, but yet and still, you look at their numbers are really really low right now,
yeah. They
really low.
they have they have just like all of the state institutions of higher learning have been battling the smaller state institutions of higher learning, because I think the big three have been they have
Yeah.
lingered on pretty well in terms of
Hmm.
their enrollment numbers. Their numbers have gone up over the years. But the
Correct.
other institutions are really, 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 really working hard, trying to make sure and be as just as competitive to bring in those students so that you
Well,
have that kind of enrollment that will be keep your program competitive.
what before we get off here, man, before I let you go, I wanna know, Brother Charles, what do you think that these smaller schools, what do you think the solution may be going forward with a Delta State and even the Mississippi Valley? You got Tuskegee, that's a private institution. What do you think that these schools are going to have to do with the portal and the NILs, and the junior colleges are fighting for kids right now when they used to just be abundance of those kids coming in? What do you think? What do you think is the future going forward with these private institutions? you know, when it comes to athletics and mainly football, because that's the one that costs them the most, and you can actually get the most out of it. So, what's your thoughts on before we get out here? What's your thoughts on going forward with these institutions? Um, you may end up having to do,
Um,
or what do you think the solution is?
I don't know what the solution would be because I know that the futures of a lot of these institutions, a lot of these athletic programs, especially pertaining to football, is not bright. It's not bright because the cost of doing business is going up,
Right.
and the cost of doing business, trying to remain competitive, trying to keep your athletes healthy.
Mm,
That's something that we run into. When a student comes onto your program, your institution, you are responsible for that student in
correct.
every stage of it, their
In, e-
academic,
in
their
every
physical
capacity,
well-being, in every capacity.
every
And
capacity.
then kid gets hurt, some and needs a surgery. Then where are you going to be able to provide that service? Then you're going to be looking at parents. Are you going to try, parents like, well, you brought my baby into this situation. Now, what are you going to do about it? Those costs are insane. And
Mm.
trying to keep that going. It's going to be some schools that lose programs. That's just the fact. That's the way it's going to be.
Well, I think it's going to be
It's
some
a
other
number
schools
of them.
take a look at
Yes,
this very hard.
I mean, they're gonna have to because
Right.
I can't. I don't want to put out there, any predictions about any
Right.
particular
Me neither.
institution.
We're not
But
doing that. We're looking at
but
facts, really, to be honest with you. What we're
we're
dealing with.
looking at the real numbers. And when you see and when I do my research and I start reading and I'm looking at what's happening with higher education across this country, it is worse.
Yeah, it's
Because
work.
one thing that I've always been taught, and I came across this many years ago, and that is education is the keys to the kingdom. So this is larger than just a football thing.
It
This
is.
is a whole institution, and the roles that your institutions play in a community. Because not only are they places for people to come in to grow and develop, but they're economic institutions unto themselves that hire people, that gives people careers within the internal and the external aspects of that
Oh, no
university
doubt.
and
No
where
doubt,
they
man.
fit. And when those institutions close, that's a factory closing. You hear about these factory towns that everybody has raised their children,
Mm,
sent kids to
mm,
college, done
mm.
all these
It's a lot
components,
of dollars
industry
leaving some of
building,
these
and then
towns when
all
you
of a
do
sudden
that.
that university goes away. Huh?
Mm. Yes, that's
So
a
it's
lot.
it's larger. It's larger than just it's life in
Mm.
every aspect of it, and we have to think about that.
Oh yeah,
And
we
so the
definitely have to think
institutions
about
have
that.
to adjust themselves to be able to deal with that hard reality. So that means if I gotta let my football program go so I can keep this institution going, then I gotta let it go. If I gotta,
Man,
if I've got to, let this department go to keep this institution going, I gotta let it go. Those are ugly, harsh, painful realities
man,
that
that's
we have to deal with where we are with these institutions across the board. So it's not just about running up and down the football field on a Saturday afternoon.
correct.
It's the
Correct.
whole component of every aspect. What happens if Valley goes away, if Delta State, if Tougaloo College or any institution of higher learning, it just goes away? What happens to that community that's around it?
Man,
See,
that's tough. That's tough.
that's the part we got to deal with. No Alcorn, no Jackson State, no anybody, no Ole
Man.
Miss, no Mississippi State. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
What
man.
happened?
Oh,
When you take away all of that,
it will definitely put a dent in the economy and everything else that's going on in that town.
yeah,
I mean, it would
yeah,
definitely do that. But brother Charles, we're gonna have to bring you back on, man. We're gonna have to bring you back on. I love the insight that you got, and this is the Gridiron Insight. So, man, we love. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. And like I said, we're gonna
appreciate it,
have you
man.
back
Thoroughly
again,
enjoyed
man. Until next time, hey, before we go, hit that like button, subscribe, help me out. Appreciate it. Peace.
it. Peace.